Before I share my personal experience with you about my return to office experience and frustration, I want to give you permission to be angry about return to office mandates. Not because change is bad. Not because offices are inherently terrible places to work. Not because collaboration and in-person culture have no value. But because the financial cost being transferred onto workers through return to office mandates is real, significant, and almost never discussed honestly in the conversations companies are having publicly about why they want everyone back. The public conversation about return to office is almost entirely framed around productivity, culture, mentorship, collaboration, innovation, and the energy of being together. These are real things. Some of them have genuine merit. But they are also extraordinarily convenient framings for companies because they make the conversation about values and culture rather than about money. And when you make the conversation about values and culture, instead of money you obscure the financial reality, which is that return to office mandates transfer thousands of dollars per year in real costs from the company's balance sheet onto the worker's personal finances. You now have to pay for commuting, eating out for lunch, work clothes, childcare expense, and increased takeout cost for dinner because of lack of time in the evening to prepare meals. You pay for all of these. Welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to put actual numbers on the cost of return to office. Every category, the full financial picture that most employees never calculate clearly, and most companies are counting on you not calculating at all. Hit subscribe if you want to keep seeing the financial reality behind the workplace decisions affecting your life. Watch until the end so you can hear my personal story. Maybe you'll feel better after that. Thank you for your support. Let's get into it. Let's start with the most obvious and most significant cost category. The commute. The average American commute is approximately 27 minutes each way. That's 54 minutes per day. Cross a standard work year of 250 days, that is 225 hours per year spent commuting. Not working, not resting, not doing anything productive or enjoyable. Just moving between a place you sleep and a place you work. 225 hours. That is more than 9 full 24-hour days of your life every year dedicated exclusively to the commute. The shocking part, your commute is likely going to be longer if you live in metropolitan cities where you have to deal with traffic, where 3 miles could take you 30 minutes. But let's talk about the financial costs specifically. For people who drive, which is the majority of American commuters, the IRS standard mileage rate for 2024 is 67 cents per mile. This rate is designed to capture the full cost of vehicle use, fuel, depreciation, maintenance, insurance impact. The average commute distance is approximately 16 miles each way. 32 miles round trip. At 67 cents per mile, that is $21.44 per day in vehicle operating costs. Cross 250 working days, that is $5,360 per year. That's over $5,000 just to get to and from work. Not parking, not tolls, not the wear on your vehicle that accelerates maintenance cycles. Just the basic cost of operating a car for the average American commute. If you live in an urban area and use public transit, the math looks different, but isn't necessarily better. Monthly transit passes in major American cities range from $100 in smaller markets to $132 in New York, to $120 in Chicago, to $115 in Los Angeles. Annually, that is $1,200 to $1,584, lower than driving, but still a significant cost that simply didn't exist when you worked remotely. For people who drove to work and then transitioned to remote, and then are being forced back, the return to a $5,360 annual commute cost is a real pay cut. Not a metaphorical one. Real reduction in annual compensation that appears nowhere on the salary negotiation table and is never discussed in the return to office announcement email. And if your employer is not compensating you for this cost increase, which most aren't, you just absorbed a $5,360 annual pay cut without anyone saying the words pay cut out loud. Next, food. And this one surprises people when they actually run the numbers. When you work from home, you eat at home. You have access to your full kitchen, your pantry, your leftovers, your ability to meal prep efficiently. The cost of a home-prepared lunch is roughly $3 to $5 per meal, depending on what you're making. Annual cost of lunch at home across 250 working days, approximately $750 to $1,250. When you work in an office environment, the social and logistical dynamics shift. You don't always have time to bring lunch. The culture of going out to eat with colleagues is real, and for many people not entirely optional from a relationship-building standpoint. The options near most offices are significantly more expensive than your home kitchen. The average office worker spends approximately $11 to $15 per day on lunch. Let's use $13 as a middle estimate. Cross 250 days, that is $3,250 per year. The difference between home lunch costs and office lunch costs is approximately $2,000 to $2,500 per year. For the same meal function. just in a different location. Then there is coffee. When you work from home, your coffee costs roughly 30 to 50 cents per cup using your own beans and equipment. When you work in an office environment, the coffee shop visit becomes part of the daily ritual, culturally, socially, logistically. The average coffee shop purchase is $5 to $7. One per day across 250 working days, $1,250 to $1,750 per year, versus $75 to $125 at home. Difference, approximately $1,125 to $1,625 per year. On coffee, add the lunch premium and the coffee premium together. $3,625 to $4,125 per year in additional food costs just from being physically present in an office instead of your home. This is not optional luxury spending. This is the unavoidable cost structure of working in an environment where your home kitchen is not accessible. This one gets dismissed as trivial, and it is not trivial. Remote workers do not need to maintain a professional wardrobe at the same level as office workers. The clothing budget for a remote worker for work purposes is effectively zero or minimal. The camera sees your shoulders and above, and the bar for what's acceptable has dropped significantly. The shoes, the tailored pants, the dry clean-only items, the professional footwear, none of these get used. None of them wear out. None of them need replacing. Office workers need to maintain a professional wardrobe actively. Industry surveys consistently find that office workers spend between $1,000 and $2,000 per year on work-appropriate clothing and footwear. Dry cleaning on professional garments runs $200 to $400 per year for regular office wear. Professional grooming expectations, haircuts, maintenance at professional frequency, add another $300 to $600 per year depending on hair length and local pricing. Total wardrobe and grooming premium for office versus remote, approximately $1,500 to $3,000 per year. Again, not optional, not a choice. The professional environment has professional appearance standards, and meeting those standards costs money that the employer is not reimbursing. This is the cost category that hits hardest for parents and is almost entirely invisible in the return to office conversation. Remote work gave parents, particularly parents of school-age children, a fundamentally different relationship with childcare logistics. Parent working from home has meaningful flexibility around school pickup times, sick days, school closures, after-school supervision windows. This flexibility directly reduces childcare costs in ways that are significant. The average cost of after-school childcare in the United States is approximately $200 to $400 per child per month, depending on the market and the provider. For parents who worked remotely and managed the after-school window themselves, that cost was zero or dramatically reduced. Return to office eliminates that flexibility entirely. If you have to be at a desk until 5 or 5:30, you cannot pick up your child at 3:15, and someone else has to be paid to do it. For a family with 2 school-age children in a mid-cost market, the return-to-office childcare cost is approximately $400 to $600 per month, $4,800 to $7,200 per year. This is not a small number. For many families, this is the largest single financial impact of a return-to-office mandate. And it falls almost entirely on the parent, usually but not always the mother, whose career flexibility was providing the childcare coverage. The elder care version of this is less discussed but equally real. Workers caring for aging parents found that remote flexibility allowed them to manage care responsibilities that would otherwise require paid assistance. Return to office removes that flexibility and may force paid care arrangements that can cost $1,500 to $3,000 per month. Beyond the 4 major categories, there are a collection of smaller costs that individually seem trivial but collectively add thousands more to the return to office bill. Parking. In most American cities and suburban office, parking costs money. Monthly parking in urban office environments ranges from $80 to $400 per month. Even suburban office parking often involves daily fees of $5 to $15. Annual parking cost for urban office workers, $960 to $4,800. Suburban, $1,250 to $3,750 in daily fee scenarios. Vehicle wear and maintenance. Returning to a daily commute accelerates vehicle maintenance cycles, oil changes, tire wear, brake replacement, general wear that shortens vehicle lifespan. The incremental annual maintenance cost of adding 8,000 commute miles per year to a vehicle is approximately $600 to $1,200 per year in accelerated maintenance and depreciation. Home utility savings lost. Remote workers heat and cool their homes during working hours. This costs money, but they also avoid heating and cooling an office they're not in, which the company pays for. More importantly, remote workers often structure their lives around lower housing costs, further from expensive urban centers, because location independence allows it. Return to office mandates can eliminate location flexibility entirely, potentially forcing expensive relocations or accepting long commutes from lower-cost areas. The housing cost implications of losing location flexibility can be enormous, potentially tens of thousands of dollars in rent premium for proximity to an office location. Mental health and wellness spending. This is the most underreported cost category. Studies consistently show that commuting is among the most stressful daily activities people engage in. Chronic commuting stress generates real spending, more convenience food, more alcohol consumption, more discretionary spending on stress relief and entertainment to compensate for the reduced quality of life. The wellness spending generated by commute stress and reduced schedule flexibility is estimated at $500 to $1,500 per year for the average returning office worker. Let's put all of this together because the aggregate number is what makes this conversation matter. Commute cost $5,360 per year for the average driver. Food premium $3,625 to $4,125 per year. Wardrobe and grooming $1,500 to $3,000 per year. Childcare for parents with school-age children $4,800 to $7,200 per year. Parking $960 to $4,800 per year depending on market. Vehicle maintenance increment $600 to $1,200 per year. Wellness and stress spending $500 to $1,500 per year. For a worker without children in a mid-cost market, with average commute, the total additional annual cost of return to office is approximately $12,000 to $14,000 per year. For a parent with 2 school-age children in an urban market, the total is approximately $20,000 to $25,000 per year. $20,000 to $25,000 per year in additional personal expenses generated by a workplace location change that the employer decided on and announced in a memo. With no corresponding salary increase. With no cost reimbursement. Just a policy change that silently transfers $20,000 to $25,000 per year in costs from the company's expense categories onto the worker's personal budget. To put that in context, a $20,000 per year cost transfer is equivalent to a 27% pay cut on a $74,000 salary. 27%. Not discussed. Not negotiated. Not labeled as what it is. Just absorbed because that is what employees do when a policy changes. Practical and specific. Here is what you can actually do with this information. First, calculate your personal number. Not the average. Your actual cost. Your actual commute distance and method. Your actual food spending difference. Your actual childcare situation. Your actual parking cost. Run the real math for your specific situation. Write it down. Have the specific number. Because vague anger about return to office is easy to dismiss. A specific documented financial impact is much harder to dismiss. Second, use your number in salary negotiations. If you are being required to return to office and your calculated cost is $12,000 per year, that is a legitimate basis for a salary conversation. You are not asking for a raise. You are asking to be made whole for a documented cost increase that the employer's policy decision created. Frame it that way. Show the math. Most employers will not fully compensate this, but some will partially compensate it, and even partial compensation is thousands of dollars better than nothing. Third, negotiate the terms before you comply. Return to office mandates are almost never all or nothing in practice. The workers who push back thoughtfully and specifically, proposing hybrid arrangements, specific days, flexible hours that reduce commute costs, often get better terms than those who simply comply or simply quit. The window for negotiation is before you start complying with the new arrangement, not after you have already demonstrated you'll do it without compensation. Fourth, factor total compensation into job decisions. A job offering $75,000 fully remote is worth more total compensation than a job offering $80,000 with a full-time office requirement and a $12,000 annual cost burden. The remote job's effective compensation is $75,000. The office job's effective compensation is $68,000 after costs. The $5,000 higher salary is actually in $7,000 lower total compensation. Run this math on every job decision. Fifth, understand your leverage. Return to office mandates generate significant voluntary turnover. Companies know this. Workers with specialized skills, strong performance records, and limited local competition have more negotiating leverage than they typically use. The cost of replacing a skilled employee, recruiting, training, productivity loss during transition, is typically 50 to 200% of that employee's annual salary. You cost more to replace than most managers want to think about. That is real leverage if you use it thoughtfully. Before we wrap up, let me share my personal experience with you. My company enforces return to office 4 times per week, which they call hybrid approach. Honestly, that sounds more like full-time. Because that's the same requirement as before the pandemic. It is definitely annoying that I have to waste time to get ready and to commute in the morning and the end of the day. Not to mention the cost of car maintenance and fuel. If I have family commitment for partial day or couple hours, the company suggests to take the whole day off rather than work from home. That's how much they discourage working remotely. The joke in the office is you can be a mediocre worker, but you better swipe your badge. Knowing that's how serious they are about return to office, there's no choice but to embrace the situation. I convince myself that's how life used to be, and I treat the commute as part of work. I am not driving like a maniac and stress myself out just to show up right at 8 o'clock. If I am a few minutes late, oh well. I switched to an electric car after the pandemic to ease the cost of gasoline, which truly help, and I could feel your pain if you have to fuel with gas. As a way to encourage people to return to office, they offer some commuting or parking cost reimbursement. But everything else is still out of my pocket. Return to office was the mandate spread from the US administration more than 1 year ago. We'll just have to embrace it until the next administration come up with a new set of mandate. Maybe someday they will realize they could improve their bottom line if they do not have to pay for office lease, maintenance, furniture, janitorial service, and coffee. So here is the full picture. Return to office mandates are not primarily cultural decisions or productivity decisions. They are financial decisions. Commercial real estate leases need to be justified. Managers feel more comfortable with visible teams. Corporate leadership wants to demonstrate control over workforce behavior. And they are being funded by transferring thousands to tens of thousands of dollars per year in costs from the company balance sheet onto the worker's personal budget, without raising the worker's salary, without reimbursing the costs, and without ever using the words that accurately describe what is happening. What is happening is a pay cut disguised as a culture initiative. Your anger about that is not irrational or resistant to change. It is a correct financial response to a documented financial reality. You have the right to be angry. And then be specific about what you are angry about. Because specific, documented, calculated anger is something you can negotiate with. Vague resentment just costs you money silently. Calculate your number. Know your leverage. Negotiate before you comply. And factor total compensation into every career decision you make. Drop a like if this gave you a clearer financial picture of a decision that affects your life. Subscribe if you want to keep seeing the real math behind the workplace and financial systems shaping your situation.